Welcome to the Braid Podcast. I am Rodney Perry, also known as King, and this podcast is powered by Braid, your new solution for editing, sourcing, and publishing your new short-form social media content. And today is a special one. I believe that the subject matter that I feel like we have to speak to more often is niche. Understanding your niche. I think that the guest that I had today really is a beautiful example of understanding her niche, understanding that, and is it niche or is it niche? I gotta get we're gonna figure out which one that is. We're speaking to Shaye Koester of the Casual Cattle Conversations today, and I really feel like the wealth of knowledge that she has, and also the perspective to still try, is a truly tells you two lessons. It tells you that you not only should definitely make that podcast if you feel like you have this unique voice and unique perspective. Just try, because you never know who really needs your specific opinion. But also to understanding that there is a niche that is extremely valuable, that is so many people within it that need to be able to exchange with each other. With something like talking about the cattle ranch industry, that is extremely niche. That is the most niche you can get. And I think that for me, I love and support anyone who sees a gap in space or somewhere that they can provide a solution. And the things that she said in this conversation are something that I believe are very well needed by her community, but also possibly needed by your community as well. And I think Braid can help with that, not only by being able to create prompts and quickly be able to get responses where you can take your time to respond and not just react like everything else on social media. You can get quality responses in a flash. This week's highlighted feature I want to speak to is actually the video response feature when you are creating a braid. Now, we all know that when it comes to just making a braid, you can always just create that braid with whatever that question is, whatever that prompt is. It'll create a link and also a QR code for you to send out to your community via social media or whatever form. But what if you can also create an additional intro response, a video response, to better just, get people acclimated into what it is that you're asking. Make a video prompt, if you will. And I think that not only does it draw people in, it personalizes it, it makes people get even more excited about responding, and definitely leads to even more of a way to fix all these things into your overall social media campaign. Because not only you can start off and set the tone with a particular prompt and video response from whomever it could be. This could be a particular VIP of your industry or within your internal company, whatever you believe that use case could be for. It's a great feature. Highly suggest for you to try it. Just make sure when you are logging into Braid and utilizing that braid feature, that new braid, creating that new braid, you'll see that tab to be able to toggle for a video response and then be prompted to create one via whatever camera source you have on the device that you're using, either being it via webcam or on your phone through the Braided mobile app. So get into it. I think that'll definitely show up to be a really great resource for so many people. But now let's get into the conversation that I had with Shaye Koester. Let's get into it. This is Braid Podcast. Welcome. This is the Braid Podcast with Rodney Perry, also known as King. And today, I have yet again another special guest right here on the Braid Podcast. I have here with me all the way from North Dakota. Well, I hope y'all planning y'all next, vacation trips to North Dakota. Maybe no time soon, but sometime.
Come in June.
Come in June. I have here with me host of the Casual Cattle Conversations, as well as four generations deep? Fifth generations deep into cattle ranching. I have here with me Shaye Koester. How are you doing, Shaye?
I am doing great, Rodney. It's a little chilly up here, but every day is a good day.
A little chilly. Tell us more about, because I think, I feel like other than what is it? Lewis, where are the explorers' names? Is it
Lewis and Clark?
Lewis and Clark. I feel like other than Lewis and Clark, I can't remember the last time. A chapter about Lewis and Clark is the last time I probably heard the words and just more in-depth things about North Dakota being said. But I would love to shed some light on like living in North Dakota, how's like growing up in North Dakota, all those various things, just to, because that's something that we don't really get a lot of, perspective on.
I always say North Dakota is just this hidden gem of the United States.
Come on, hidden gem.
Yes. Sometimes we have, like last year, there was snow on the ground for, I think, almost, was it at least 6 months? I'm trying to think. Last year we got snow in November, and it was still there for into early May, at least. So, or mid-May maybe even. But, it's a great, it's a small state. We don't have a big population, but the people are just phenomenal people, great people, helpful, nice, kind. That kind of warms you up when it gets to be below zero for long stretches.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Our summers are the most beautiful summers ever because, sure, in the winter we can be below zero for long periods of time, but when we get into summer, it never seems too hot most of the time. We can get into the hundreds and 90s, and we actually had a hot summer this past few months ago, but for the most part, it's sunny and 75.
I love that. Mm-hmm. So how much of the industry of cattle ranching is like this kind of, year-long process? Is it any slow months? Is it kind of always busy? I would love to know that too.
Yeah, so the cattle industry, it's broad. There's a lot of different segments. Mm-hmm. I'm more so immersed in the ranching side of it. So we're looking at calving out cattle. So we get to see the baby calves. We get to make sure they're healthy, and we get to grow them up until in my family, we sell bulls, but my husband and I sell steers and heifers. And so until they go on to the next stage at the feedlot usually. And so there are some busier seasons. Usually our busier seasons would be during calving, which depending on the operation could be any month of the year. It just depends on how that unique operation sets it up. My husband and I calve in March and April, and my parents calve in August and September. So it just depends. But so kind of depends on the stage of the calf and the cow, and those kind of dictate the busy season. So you look at those first couple months of calving, those are busy because you are out there every hour. Sometimes it feels like you live with the cows, making sure that they don't have any problems calving and everything's alive and healthy. And then after that, they kind of grow up and they can take care of themselves, but you're still making sure they have feed and water and mineral. They need vitamins and minerals just like we do, so we provide that. And then when they're kind of those few months old and they can be out grazing, they kind of take care of themselves. That's a little slower. So for my husband and I, that's kind of the summer months. It's a little slower on the cattle side, not as much to do. They're in breeding groups again. So hopefully the bull's doing their job there. And so, but then after that, it comes weaning, where you get to take that calf off of the cow because it's time for that calf to take care of themselves. They don't need the milk anymore. And so that's a busy time as well because got to make sure those calves are healthy and thriving. So there are busier months for sure when we look at usually spring and fall are the busiest months. But yeah.
I love that. It feels like we are definitely deep into a casual cattle conversation, if you will, pun intended. Because I always wondered like the lifestyle of anyone in agriculture, like how much of life is wrapped around the industry that you work in, like that being truly a part of the lifestyle that you live on a day to day.
Yep.
And
I after this, I'm gonna go out and check everything, make sure fences are up.
Come on,
mineral, all that. It's just a part of it, and we do our best to take trips and take vacations too. But when we do leave, we have to make sure someone else is there to watch the livestock and make sure they're fed and taken care of, especially during months when they can't graze because we can't really graze year round up here because of the snow. So
that makes sense. You
always have to have someone available to take care of things.
That's cool. And it still seems like something I get why you can do that for generations and generations, just because of the amount of back and forth, like the catering to the attention to detail, but also just going through every single process of whatever it is that your specific family has been doing in whatever part of the industry that you play in. I get how it could be that. I get how it could be something that you continue to pass on and do forever because it's something that's so needed.
It's very rewarding because you are so close to life, and sometimes death too. It is a part of it in any of these situations, but it's just very rewarding because whether it's the lives of the cattle, I mean, we're literally planning that calf specifically for which bull is going to be able to breed which cow. To make sure they're the most efficient, sustainable, and healthy, all the way up to you can watch that calf be born, make sure it's healthy, and up to the point of sale too. And within that, you're also close to life as far as the grass growing, nature, wildlife habitat. Those all work simultaneously together, so it's really cool.
I love that. So in terms of like the podcast, Casual Cattle Conversations, what would you say was the inspiration for you to start that? Because, I mean, you obviously were already deep into the industry, so many people that who are part of it. What was it that made you feel like I need to create a platform for us to speak and be able to exchange on these types of conversations?
Yeah, so I started because I was thinking about how I was learning as a young beef producer, and we learn best through our own experiences usually. And if it's not our own experiences, it's learning from others who have gone through those experiences. And I was also thinking about, who do my grandpas go to for advice? Who does my dad go to for advice? Who does my mom go to for advice? And my sister, right? And a lot of it was they were leaning on experts, but they were also leaning on their neighbors, their friends from across the country, other cattle producers. And so I was thinking about it, and I had been encouraged to kind of look into podcasting too. And I was like, well, I kind of have this problem where I want to solve as far as helping cattle producers connect to more resources and see more ideas for management practices, how to become more profitable. And podcasting was a great way to do that because as beef producers, we are always busy and there's always something to do. And with podcasts, you can listen from anywhere. And so even in the most rural places and remote places where there's no cell service, if people really want to listen, they can download ahead of time and then they can still listen from anywhere. So
oh my God.
That's kind of why I started the podcast, was because it was like, well, this is a great opportunity to bring information to cattle producers in an easy to digest format.
Okay. So what would you say has been the impact since you started?
Gosh, it's crazy. I was looking at my statistics last week and I've pulled in over 11,000 listeners over these past 4.5 years. And it's, you see the downloads, like 8,000 a month, stuff like that. It's crazy to think, how are these so many people just tuning in? And I know the impact, it varies for each person. For some, I'll get messages saying that it's been inspiring. Sometimes stories just bring hope, and that's uplifting and encouraging. And otherwise, the impact, it's been opening up new ideas to become more profitable. And being profitable in the beef business can be a challenge. And it's really rewarding to know that the information that I'm providing is allowing cattle producers to still hold on to legacy and traditions that have been with them for generations and still raise their upcoming family in that, because so many of these operations are family operations, but still make a living.
Yeah.
Still be profitable.
Yeah.
Still be able to keep the lights on.
So that makes sense.
It's really rewarding to know that I'm a part of exposing them to the ideas and practices that they need to hear and are helpful to them in reaching their goals.
I love that, because I've always been a big believer in podcasting as a medium, because I think that every voice is so unique and people have to just try sometimes to see how unique their voice is, because they'll sit there and talk themselves out of a great idea. And I think this is a wonderful one, and one that's specific to you and a large amount of people. 11,000 is just probably scratching the surface of, how many people are really involved in this industry. So I can only imagine where it can go and how, regardless of it being a number that you can probably even understand the potential of and have a capacity within, like, that like even if you reached every single cattle rancher in the domestic United States, you're still, it's a certain amount of people, but that's still a lot of people to get in on these particular conversations. And I think that that's what makes it a beautiful thing, because you are the perfect person for it. 5 generations of cattle, of being in the cattle industry is really interesting. I would love to know kind of, what has been the feedback that you've gotten from initiating your podcast and creating this space for these types of exchanges.
Well, it was interesting. Right away when I started, there were not a lot of podcasts in the beef space. There were a lot more on the farming side, but as far as the ranching side, there were only a few podcasts out there that were consistent. And I think that's the biggest thing. Anytime someone's looking at starting a podcast, is there can be a lot of podcasts, but there are only a few that are consistent. And it was interesting. There were a lot of people who I had in mind to be like, oh man, this podcast would help this person so much. Yeah. They had never heard of a podcast, or they just weren't like listening, right? Podcasts were still kind of up and coming for everyone. Yeah. This was or I shouldn't say up and coming, but kind of resurging was maybe the better word, because I started in 2019. And so, but once the information got out there, it was great feedback. People liked it. They knew they could listen from anywhere. And then for the older generation, once I started my newsletter and they realized that they could listen on their computer if they wanted, which isn't quite as convenient, but it's still a great way for people to listen. Like, they appreciated the conversations and just the content that they were able to listen to. So the feedback's been great too, as far as people appreciating the resource that's out there.
I love that.
And since then, a lot more people have obviously started clinging to podcasts as information sources.
Okay. And I think that, the fact that you've seen the through line of like, in terms of like availability of service and this being valuable information that you can still consume is genius. I think that's something that, yet again, you wouldn't know unless you tried and realized like, hey, this is the best medium for people like myself and anyone else who may want to exchange and have community within what it is that they do. Because I think that that's the biggest thing that we need. And I think that's why, social media as a whole and social networking as a whole has thrived as a new form of communication, because we don't know that there are 1,000 other people that's into whatever it is we're into. We like a certain show, we have a certain interest, we have a particular occupation. Being aligned with those people make us feel, not only does it enrich us and give us the information we need to elevate something about what it is that we do, or elevate our knowledge on what it is that we do. I love that you're doing this for a very specific niche, and I can only imagine where you're going to go, because it seems extremely impactful on this particular industry, but also the people that you're going to get in the rooms who are just a wealth of knowledge for hundreds of years of knowledge, all in one space, and you're collecting these stories, capturing these moments, and being able to chronicleize them and categorize them for anybody to be able to, have some type of information that they can consume pretty easily. My last question to you is, Braid is something that I think that, is a great tool for exactly what you are doing. And I would love to know, how much, you've like looked into Braid and various things and see how you can incorporate Braid into your overall kind of, either your content, planning, or maybe just getting, responses. I would love to know exactly how you want to incorporate Braid into your actual kind of, marketing or social media flow.
Yeah, so I'm still in the beginning stages of incorporating Braid, but I do have to say, when Mike reached out to me, I was really excited about it, because it's an opportunity to make content creation easier for me and connect my audience to my experts, my guests, and each other easier, because it's so easy just to send a link out with a prompt for people to answer a quick, simple question, and they can just simply reply. And whether it's Reels, putting together other videos for Facebook, really the opportunities are endless. I feel like when it comes to Braid, as far as how you can use it to promote your podcast, promote your business, or whatever it may be.
I agree. On that note, I would love if you let everyone know how they can follow, support, and keep up with you, Shaye.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether you are interested in listening to casual cattle conversations or interested in podcast coaching, all of that information is on my website, casualcattleconversations.com. Simply hit the contact us page, and that'll send, once you fill out that box, it'll send me an email, and I get back to people within 24 to 48 hours. At least I try to. So I'd love to chat about anything. And well, even if you're not in the beef industry and you just want to learn more, feel free to ask questions. I'd love to talk about it.
I appreciate that, Shaye. You can see all of her information in the description of this episode. I really, really do appreciate you giving us your time. Speaking for Braid, we really appreciate you just coming in and even seeing the value of Braid being something that you can utilize for your social media content. Really glad to have you. This has been Shaye Koester of the Casual Cattle Conversations, and this is the Braid Podcast. Thank you. This podcast is brought to you by Life is King Creative, hosted by and produced by Rodney Perry, in cooperation and partnership with Braided Inc. Thanks for listening. Make sure that you subscribe for more Braid content.